Wow, I already drank that whole shake? This is a slab of Colombian colored lab created emerald rough. This slab was created using the hydrothermal method. Note there are some fractures and inclusions, not many, but a few in this slab. That is common with lab-created emerald. However, this rough is significantly cleaner than natural emerald, which very often is difficult to cut and polish because of all the internal issues with most natural emerald. And that small amount of natural emerald, which doesn't have any internal issues, is very, very expensive. Even costing more than diamonds in a lot of cases. So I will use my trim saw to cut a piece off of this slab for the pear shape that my wife BOPIE wants me to cut for a client. BOPIE and our client already selected the design they want me to use to cut this emerald. The design, Allan's Challenge, is by Arya Akvan, and here is Arya's design. Now I have cut this design several times before, but customers really seem to like this design, so I will be cutting it again here. Good job, Arya. Now, I do need to very slightly adjust Arya's design because I need a length and width which is not the same as the length to width ratio that Arya's design is for. So I use GemCut Studio, the GCS software, to adjust the length to width. And I have prepared tutorial videos on how to use the GCF software, although I'm not an expert, so I'll refer you to those videos if you want to see how GCS works. So I won't cover the minor tweak that I made to Arya's design here. I will show you here how using the GemCut Studio feature called the Cutting Assistant, just how my minor tweak has made one of the facets on each side of the pavilion so that they don't meet the other facets. So I can adjust these two facets, kind of like an accordion. I can make them closer to the center point of the rear facets or further away from that center point where that half round circle of all those facets meet. And moving those two facets in or out adjusts the length of my final stone. But I can only make a very small adjustment here to the length, or else the design just wouldn't look right. For this pear-shaped emerald, I cut my rough a little bit bigger than I needed because this is another one where it has to fit the ring, in this case, exactly right, because the ring already has accent stones around it and it's pretty well set, so center stone has to fit perfectly. So I'm going to take some loss in rough, but I've got a bigger piece of rough than I need, and I made a rectangular shape for our pear out of my Colombian colored rough, a lab created hydrothermal emerald. So the way it goes into our index for our stone is at the 96 index, the bottom of our pear will be there, and at 24, at the 24 index, 24 index will be the side, and the 72 index tooth will be the other side. So the back part of our pear is round, so it's a half round on the back part, and then it cuts in to a point. And it's also not centered on your rough. So make sure you don't center your rough on your dop when you're cutting a pear design like this, where there's a kind of half circle in the back, because if you center the stone here, you're going to end up with a very much smaller stone, as there's going to be a lot more waste, because this is the center point. So now I'm going to use my 240 grit topper and kind of preform our stone into our pear shape. I've preformed our emerald with my 240 grit topper, so now I'll continue to work on it. I've got the basic shape, the outline of our pear shaped all done. It's still a little bit bigger, a lot bigger than I need it to be, but I'll continue to work to tighten up the facets up here and make this a permanent center point. and that'll force the point to come back a little bit and make our length to width ratio a little smaller, which is what we need, and we'll get it right where we need it. I've gone over the emerald with my 12M 1500 grit lap, and it's given a pretty good pre-polish. I don't see any major scratching. It's really a nice pre-polish. So I probably could go to polish right now with my cerium oxide and my creamway lap, but I think I'll go another step, and I think I'll do another pre-polish step with my 13,000 grit diamond on a bat lap, and then go to polish. It'll just make polishing that much quicker and easier. Okay, I went ahead and pre-polished again the first row with my 13,000 grit diamond on a bat lap, and so you can see the difference between a 12M of pre-polish and a 13,000 grit diamond. This is about a 1500 versus 13,000, and I think I could have gone to polish from this stage, but by doing an extra step of pre-polishing, I'm going to ensure that when I do polish that it's quick and easy, and I'll line these lines up when I do the second row to make sure there's a nice line there instead of these rather large facets, which had to make this one large to bring the facet to touch right where it needed to touch. And the other thing I would note with this design is you're going from the bottom back to the girdle with your tiers. A lot of times when you do step cuts, you're going the other way. So it's kind of interesting the way Aria designed it. It's a nice design. Finished polishing the pavilion, or the bottom half of our emerald, so now I will transfer the stone and start cutting the upper half. I started pre-forming the upper half of our emerald, and I'm using my 240 grit topper. Now I am going to, at this point, follow Aria's instructions and cut the table. Normally I like to cut the table last, but in this design it helps line the table up where it needs to be, with the facets it needs to be aligned with, which are in the back half of the stone. And because I changed the length and width of the stone from Aria's design to get a specific length to width, some of the facets will not line up. So cutting the girdle now will make sure it's pretty well where in the position it needs to be. It'll need to be cut down, polished in later, but it'll get me pretty much where I need to be. Coming along well. Okay, I finished polishing the upper half of our emerald, so now I'll set up my Ultratech to cut the table, and then we'll be done with this this emerald, and we'll soak it in the acetone to remove the two-part epoxy. Okay, I finished polishing the table. I pre-polished it with my 13,000 grit diamond on a bat lap, which gave it a really good pre-polish. So then when I went to polish it with my creamway lap and cerium oxide, it polished right up, no problems. So now I'll soak the stone in acetone, and we'll weigh it, measure it, and send it off to BOPIE. In this video, I used Aria's Pear Shaped design called Allan's Challenge to cut a piece of lab-created emerald to a specific size, and I had to be within 0.1 millimeter for it to fit exactly into a piece of jewelry that BOPIE, my wife, has waiting. I have cut this design before, which makes it easier to cut. The more you cut the same design, the better you get at it. I don't really have a go-to or favorite pear design yet, but customers do like Aria's pear-shaped design, and customers definitely get a vote. So I keep cutting pear shapes using this design. But I would like to cut some other pear-shaped designs, so please let me know your favorite pear-shaped design in the comments, please. Also, let me know what you think of Aria's design and this gemstone. And as always, happy fasting, everyone.